bring us home.
Oh, does he know that he needs to introduce us?
He knows. He
okay.
knows.
Hey, it's facial recognition comedy with Dave Waite.
You did great, Dave. I'm Fizza Dasani.
I'm Paula Vegan-Allen.
I'm Zara Ali.
And our guest is
Dave Waite.
He's bringing his Dave sauce in here.
Yeah.
I introduced myself.
No, we wanted you to do that.
Okay.
It was
Welcome. It was great. It was wonderful.
We just wanted to emphasize.
All right.
It was totally Dave. It was everything we wanted.
Oh,
from
all
you,
right.
Dave. It was great.
It was beyond.
Beyond.
Yeah. I'm very impressed.
Oh, I appreciate it. Well, we could probably just wrap up the cast.
Leave on a high note. A little awestruck here. So, Dave, we're your first stop today.
Yeah, I wasn't on the podcast circuit, you know.
Just hitting up all the podcasts. That would be so efficient if we could record all the podcasts in one day.
That would be so exhausting.
It would be.
Years ago, when I used to live with this guy, Shane Moss. I don't know if you know him. He's very
Yeah.
funny. And,
Yeah.
we would just we had this podcast called The Riff Board. Nobody ever listened to it. It was like a celebration of immaturity. A lot of boner talk, and I apologize. And,
that's
just
fair.
it was just two guys.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Give him a look for boners.
Oh, did I? I didn't mean to.
I love boners.
Sometimes my face just does things, and I don't really put any intention
Well, there's like
behind
3
it.
women, and
So-
I get intimidated by ladies.
Oh, no.
Don't get intimidated
Yeah, we talk
by
about
us.
dicks all the time. It's
Don't
fine.
worry.
But the
Don't worry.
podcast wasn't exclusively about boners. It was like about uncles and
Yeah,
Uncles
Totally.
and boners, yeah.
you know.
Two topics
Creepy
that are very
uncles.
popular these
It was
days. yeah.
it was called the Riff Board because me and Shane lived together, and he'd be like, "Man, you always say really hilarious stuff. Do you ever put that in your act?" And I'm like, "I didn't even realize I said something funny." So he would write it down, and then later we would just go in the garage and then just record for hours. But some of the episodes were 12 minutes, and some of them were 40 minutes. They were just based on how long we could stretch out a riff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
That's
it was
great.
Yeah, nobody listened to it, but it was fantastic.
But did you
Are they
get
out there?
material out of it?
Maybe
Did
we
any
got
of-
some material
Okay.
out. I mean, mostly it was just a lot of fun, you know.
Are they still out there?
I think part of them are still out there. I think one of the SoundCloud kind of
What's the
lapsed.
name of the podcast?
It was called the Riff Board.
The riff board.
That sounds fun.
It was fun.
What's it like living with other comedians? Because I haven't had that experience yet as roommates who are also comics.
I mean,
I mean, do the punchlines ever end? Are you guys always one-upping each other and yes-anding each other? And
yeah, I mean, there's a lot
Yeah.
of that happening.
But it's fun.
I mean, forks seem to disappear a lot. We had a lot of fork issues over the years.
I live with a comic, and yeah, we have less forks than.
That's better than spoons disappearing. I'd be like, oh, they got a habit.
but I feel
Oh,
like
yeah.
forks
When the
are more
spoons are all gone, the
functional.
forks
Yeah.
go next.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can always use a fork as a spoon almost.
Yeah.
You know?
Forks are great. Are forks our favorite utensil?
Yes,
Everybody?
I think so.
Yeah. All right, great. We agree.
Yeah.
Maybe spork?
I like
What?
sporks.
Sporks are good.
I do have an aluminum spork at home.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember when you were allowed to start using forks?
I
This
don't-
is a very pivotal moment of my childhood. I remember I wasn't allowed near forks or allowed to use forks for whatever reason. I might have tried to kill my sister with a fork at one point. I don't know, because she was 3 years younger and I was jealous or whatever. But so I wasn't allowed near forks. I was only allowed to use, if I needed a fork, they gave me plastic sporks. You know, the ones that they give you at Taco Bell or whatever.
KFC.
So I remember around 6 or 7, they finally handed me a fork, and I'm like, yes, I've
6
made
or
it.
7.
Yeah.
That's
It took
really
them a
late,
while
right?
to trust me with sharp objects, I think. I
Damn.
don't know.
Now, can I
Damn.
ask something that, this is just a naive white guy, and, in the Indian culture, silverware is a thing, right?
Oh, not a thing, you mean?
Is it a thing?
a lot of, I mean,
I think we do a lot of eating with our hands.
yeah.
Historically.
Oh, all right. Just
Just
get in
tastes
there.
better.
There's a lot of flatbread,
Yeah,
so you
yeah, I
can
know
use that as a
yeah,
utensil.
a lot of dipping.
But
Yeah.
also, my parents eat rice with their hands.
Oh, what?
I was
Yeah.
raised,
That doesn't seem.
and that's,
No,
but you think it
that's-
tastes better, though?
Yeah, I like eating with my hands way better than I like eating with a fork.
Wow.
Yeah, I always ate
Yeah.
rice with a fork and then the bread with my hands.
The,
So,
the rice, it's common to just eat with your hands and not use any utensils for anything in India. But
I don't know.
but it's not a thing. People have utensils. They just
We
choose
have
not to.
utensils.
Yeah,
I think
I mean,
it's a
India
cultural
now.
thing. Certain parts of India, they use their hands. I don't know. In our house, we always use utensils. But I did have older grandparents and older uncles and whatever. that were more like traditional from the Indian culture that use their hands. So whatever you're into.
There's also like
no
the
one judges
banana
you.
leaf as a plate, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
So silverware, you take it or leave it there.
Oh,
a lot
okay.
of people will leave it.
Oh, all right.
But like
Yeah.
food is a huge part of our culture, and it's very like communal and stuff. It's like feasting is like always part of
an
like
event.
some celebration. Yeah, like meals tend to be an event. Like every celebration is like surrounded by a feast.
Anytime anyone moves or like blinks, everybody's like, "You want to eat?" Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
always offered food.
So yeah, people are very at one with their food.
When I was a kid, like I had like a little neighbor over, a little friend, and my mom kept harassing her to eat so badly that she ran home crying.
what?
Like that's how aggressively
My-
like our parents want to feed us.
My mom would come to my school because I wouldn't finish my lunches, and she would take me out of lunch and like force me to eat with her in the car. Because I
That's
was
next
just
level.
I was just bringing my lunches home. My mom's like, like very obsessive about certain things.
Wow.
I mean, I really, like my dad.
Wow.
That was like the one thing my dad probably got the most angry about is with like eating. Eat your goddamn food, which is never. It's not relaxing to eat when somebody
Yeah.
just yelled at you. But he was really insistent on eat.
Yeah.
Well, they
Where
worked
did you
hard.
grow
worked
up?
hard for that food, right? So it's like if you're not eating it, it's like, God damn it! Like I worked hard for this.
Do you know what's funny? You know how like people say like, oh, there are children in Africa starving. My mom would say that, and I'm like, we're from India. Why don't you talk about those people? Like, there's people
in India
starving too.
Yeah.
I was like, why are you just? So
I mean,
using
they're kids
African-
starving here.
Yeah, exactly. It was
It's
just
funny how it's just like one region, and that's all PR too. Like
Yeah,
I think
that's
it's
exactly
white PR.
Yeah, I'm like, Mom, what are you
Africa
doing?
is this, trying to. That's a whole other story.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in northern Kentucky. But I grew up right across from Cincinnati.
I was conceived in Kentucky, northern Kentucky, Lexington, actually.
All right. Oh, well, thanks.
you-
for the
how
heads
did you
up.
find out you were conceived?
Then I just thought of your parents having
They
sex.
offered the information.
Your parents were like, we fucked in Lexington.
They never said we fucked. I've never heard them say the word fuck, but they said actually I was conceived.
They
They
said you
used
were
the word
conceived.
conceived.
They
I was
said
like, thanks,
conceived.
didn't ask. Yeah.
It's very
So
scientific.
weird.
Why did you need to know that information?
I don't know.
You didn't.
I
They
don't
just
know.
offered it one day. Just came out.
Sometimes, like
Parents.
like I grew up like right across the river from Cincinnati, so it's like a mix of southern and Midwestern. But like
Tell them about the Cincinnati airport. Where is it?
the Cincinnati airport is in Kentucky,
Okay.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
just because it's just a proximity thing,
Okay.
because.
Then
I mean,
why
like,
they
I don't
call
know if it's LAX. I guess it's technically in the city of Los Angeles.
It's
Yes.
LA. Maybe. I mean, it's LA County or whatever.
Right. I mean,
Whatever,
there's
yeah.
other.
This is in a different
lot,
state,
You go.
yeah.
You go to a lot. You fly into a lot of cities, airports outside of the city.
That's-
and it's
yeah.
probably in some other city technically.
Yeah.
There's
But
like
this is a different
there's
state.
there's a California college in Pennsylvania. So
Yeah.
So,
But
you
the
know.
airport is like 12 miles from downtown.
Mhm.
It's
Sure.
just in a different state. Yeah.
So you grew up by Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Did you like Skyline Chili?
Oh, I love Skyline Chili. I didn't know you knew all this.
I have family. I used to have a lot of family in Cincinnati.
Did you ever eat the Skyline Chili?
I never liked it.
Yeah. Some people
Yeah.
don't like it.
I don't know. It's just I never could get
What's
into
so
it. I tried.
special about this chili?
Well, it's like it's not a hot chili, so that throws people off.
Hey,
Oh,
whoa,
what?
this
Yeah.
cold chili.
It's not like
It's room temp chili.
it's hot, it's cooked, but
Okay.
it's not like there's no-
Spicy?
No, spice. They put like cinnamon and brown sugar in it or
It's
something,
oh,
like
sweet
a little bit
chili.
sweet. And then they put like a bed of spaghetti down, and then the chili, and then they put a bunch of shredded cheese on top. It's called a three-way. And every time like a
Three-way.
yeah, I know. Every time like some comedian like would come to Cincinnati and didn't have any reference, they'd be like, I ordered a three-way. The
Yeah.
waitress would come up and she's like, you want a three-way? He's like, oh, I want a four-way. And it's some sort of sexual but
Yeah.
they didn't realize that everybody
Had
forever had made that joke, and
Yeah.
everybody's like, yeah, man, we already
We
did
get
that
it.
joke,
Yeah.
dog.
We get it.
Yeah.
They're over it.
Did you know Nick Lachey?
And then
He's from
Did
Cincinnati.
you know anyone from the 98
Wait.
Degrees boy band?
He's from 98 Degrees.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
You
any-
know the Lachey
I like
brothers?
how you were like, you're too young.
You're just making so many
It was
Cincinnati.
concerned. I was
I
like,
know. Sweet.
Fizzo, are you just making every Cincinnati reference that
Yes.
you know?
yes.
well, yeah,
We're
anytime.
trying to relate to white people. We're trying to figure out where you're from.
Wait,
and
have
what
you
you're
though?
into.
I have not met Nick Lachey. Are you a big fan? You seem excited.
No. I mean, I just know a very limited amount of things about Cincinnati. And
Yeah. Anytime he
This is
does
like
anything,
literally
it's
people
in the
talking
news.
to us about
Is
yoga.
Cincinnati-
We're doing it
Okay,
today.
what else do I know about Cincinnati?
know-
Is Cincinnati close to Twinsburg?
I don't know what that is.
Oh, Twinsburg, Ohio is where they have an annual convention for twins every year.
I don't know.
And
They
I remem-
named it after.
I don't know
Do they
why
just
they
go
named
there?
it
They probably
Twinsburg.
just go
I
there.
think that's where like a prominent set of twins were born, and they named it Twinsburg, and they do the
You
thing there.
seem very excited.
I don't know.
Kings Island.
Yeah, I've been to Kings Island.
What is Kings Island?
It's just like our Six Flags. It's a big amusement park.
Oh, my cousins worked at Kings Island.
They did.
We're just gonna call this episode Cincinnati.
I just didn't know you spent time there.
Yeah, we went up there a
Business
lot.
is so excited about Cincinnati.
She's
I've
worldly.
never-
Memories.
She's been to Cincinnati.
I've been to the Midwest.
Well, it's a possibility that we could have been crossing paths
Maybe.
at some point.
Maybe.
You never know.
Maybe at the theme park.
What
or
were some of your
something.
jobs growing up?
Growing up.
Wait, so you grew up in Cincinnati, in the Cincinnati area?
Yes.
Okay, and then did you start comedy in Cincinnati
Yeah.
as well?
That's where I started comedy. Then I
Wow.
started telling the jokes there. I saw an article in the newspaper about they opened a new club. It was the Funny Bone, and they had an article about a stand-up comedy class in the newspaper. This is when you still sat down and read the
Yeah.
newspaper. I kind of miss it because it condensed all the news in one place. You know,
Yeah.
you weren't like just spiraling out of
like
control. I don't
getting it
know if you girls-
Too
Stop.
much information.
Yeah, you're
How do
just
you
like-
filter? You have
and
someone to filter it for you.
And you could go read through it, and you'd be like, maybe I don't want to read that, but you could read it. And I felt like maybe as a society, we were all a little bit more on the same page. Now granted, you know, whoever's controlling the newspapers control, but
Yeah.
you're still like, everybody was kind of on the, hey, did you read that thing in the paper today? Now on the internet, like, you have no idea, unless it like really breaks through and it's like viral.
Yeah.
That's like what Twitter kind of is that like all these very specific things just go viral, and then
Yeah.
I know like the people that are on Twitter will know what
Right.
the fuck I'm talking about, and other people may or may not. Like,
Right, but now it's like, it's so tough. Like, you know, when you had read the local paper, you would be like, oh, I didn't realize that concert was tonight or whatever,
Yeah.
or anything sort of that nature. So I definitely feel like since the community
I remember the papers,
yeah,
the days of the newspaper.
yeah.
So
Fizz was asking what jobs you've had.
Yeah. So I wasn't allowed to have a job while I was in high school. My parents were pretty insistent on that. They didn't. They were.
Oh, wow.
My parents did that too.
So
unless
they
it
were
was
insistent
research.
on you eating your food
Yes.
and not having a job.
Eat your goddamn food. Yeah.
My parents did that too because they wanted me to like have a childhood.
Yeah.
So like the only jobs I was allowed to get were like research jobs because it was like for my long-term career or whatever.
Oh, Jesus.
But,
My
like-
parents,
I keyed
my
in it.
parents want me to have fun.
But like I wanted that. I wanted.
you
the
wanted to
job.
research.
Yeah, and so but they didn't want me to like work at like the Gap or something because
Yeah.
they're like, this isn't helping your long-term career and you're not acting like a kid.
See,
So.
that's what my parents said, but like I keyed an ex's car, he had it coming, and he said he was gonna come to my
Bad girl.
parents with it. So I know he's awful. I don't want to judge anyone, but I had to get a job. I keyed bitch into his car. And I got a job at Shrimp Shack because I'm like, I need to pay. I didn't want him to tell my parents. I was freaked out. I was like, do not anything, like tell the police. I don't give a shit. Do not tell my parents. So I got the job and I ended
The
up.
Shrimp
You
Shack?
should have.
Yeah, I
you
got
should
the job at
Where
Shrimp
was this
Shack.
at?
You
To
should
pay
have
for
Fort
the
Myers,
king.
Florida.
You should have just added into it, so it would be cool, like bitchin'.
Yeah, that works in Fort Myers.
He never got it fixed.
Oh, wow.
He just took the money.
'Cause he's
I
a
didn't know
little
you were
bitch.
a Florida person.
Yeah.
That kind
Does
of
it make
explains
sense
the
now? It makes
sweatpants
sense.
and the
Socks and
hairdos.
sandals and the weird, just general bad taste, poor taste.
No, you have taste. You just don't want to exercise it sometimes, which we all
Yeah.
do, right? Like
Yeah.
sometimes and your sweatpants are very nice sweatpants.
Thank you.
They're like quality.
Well, she has like a persona and a look. Yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
It was nurtured in Florida.
Yeah. And then, so the first time I got a job is I went away to college, and I fucking.
Is it also in Ohio?
No, I went to Eastern Kentucky University because in-state
Eastern. Okay.
in-state tuitions, but it was like
Yeah.
it was like voted like one of the party schools and you know, it's like one of those places where
Yeah.
people go to party, and it was like
Yep.
2.5 hours away, and I lasted about 8 weeks, and was like, I gotta get out of here, and I just withdrew before, you know, it was like that last cutoff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Where you could just withdraw and
Yeah.
it wouldn't be on your, like I had enough sense, even though I
Yeah.
was like, woo,
Yeah.
But then there was like that point where I was like, I'm out of control. And it was the first time being away from home, and
Yeah.
I was like, I get
Yeah.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
And then I came back to my parents, and they were like, well, all right, it's fine. You can come home. And then they knew somebody with my mom's work. They knew a guy that worked. He was like an accountant at a restaurant, and they got me a job being a busboy at this restaurant. And it was kind of like I don't know, reverse or just direct psychology. But they were like, you got to get this job. That's like being a busboy sucks.
Yeah.
And
It's a
Yeah.
lot of work.
and it was a
Did
restaurant.
reality hit you hard when you were during your
because
busboy days?
It was also a restaurant where it wasn't like it wasn't like I worked at an Applebee's or like a Fridays where it's like a bunch of young people doing drugs and fucking and stuff
Yeah.
like
That's
that.
what happens
Is that
at
what
Applebee's.
Oh yeah.
Your busboy friends at Applebee's and TGI Fridays?
Oh,
told you that?
my buddy Pawn Shop Joe.
It's very common in just restaurants anyway. Like
Pawn Shop Joe.
you're working together for so long and it's stressful and
Yeah, my buddy Pawn Shop Joe. He used to work at Applebee's, and we'd go down there and get like
Doesn't
fucked
work at a
up.
pawn shop.
Well, now he works at a pawn shop. That's where he's at now. But he used to be Applebee's
You call
Joe.
him pawn shop. Oh, it used to be Applebee's
Do
Joe.
you just refer to him as like whatever his current occupation
had
is?
a-
It's like his
Joe?
LinkedIn title and then his name.
He's had a ton of nicknames over the years, and then it was like that Applebee's. It was right next to a Fridays. They really went Burger King, McDonald's on it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They were
Yeah.
like, and it was on a big river barge thing. It was like on the river, on the Ohio River. You know,
Yeah.
and it was like people were going down to Applebee's and Fridays, and we would go down there and get fucked up because Joe would be like knew
Yeah.
the bartenders. But anytime a new girl would come on the boat, usually Joe would end up like sleeping with her within a month or something like that. You know,
Wow.
Yeah.
That was
Applebee's
Joe's
Pawn Shop
MO.
Joe got some game.
No,
But
that was
just the restaurant-
Fuckboy Joe, right?
with the restaurant industry, especially when it's like young,
Yeah.
they all end up fucking. That's what you ever see that
Yeah.
movie like Waiting? Like it's like I saw that movie
it's
Waiting.
very common. Even like not if they're young.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's options, right? So there's more options.
I mean, I feel like a restaurant is like a hotbed of like
Yeah.
sexual harassment or like very
STDs.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like drug use because the people are working late at night.
It was
But-
kind of fun to work in a restaurant. Shrimp Shack was kind of fun.
Were
I'm
you-
not gonna lie.
Did you get corrupted there,
I mean,
or were you already?
Were you corrupting?
I did get there because I car bitch into someone's car, but
Were you out there smoking weed on your break with the?
I don't know. I kind of
you
enjoyed.
blazed in your car.
I
before
wouldn't
you
say I
got-
was corrupted, but like I think I was exposed to just sort of different things.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how to describe it except as like it was Shrimp Shack. I was wearing khakis.
yeah, yeah.
You know, it was.
And you were a waitress,
I was a server. Yeah.
and you were under 18, or
I started when I was under 18, so I couldn't even serve alcohol.
so
until
you
I was
had to go
21.
get somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, so you were working
But so this
at this
restaurant,
fancy restaurant.
it was fancy. Yeah,
Okay.
it was like.
Well, that means you were probably making good tips then. A
Yeah, but
busboy at
being
a
a
fancy
busboy,
restaurant.
and I didn't
Yeah.
know what the fuck I was doing. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was like a 3-star restaurant, but it was, and then it was a 5-star restaurant upstairs. So, and everybody was like a professional there. So I was like
Yeah.
the youngest person, and the other busboys were like 40 years old. Even though like now, when I was that age, it
Yeah.
seemed so old, but now it doesn't.
Mm.
and I worked there, and I was like, oh man, I gotta get the fuck out of this. Is a real nightmare. It was just a real
Wake-up
real
call.
hard time, you know,
Yeah.
just to transition out of high school into now I'm a busboy, you know.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be in college, you know. I'm a fucking.
So it worked. Your
Yeah.
parents' plan
So did you
worked.
go back to college?
Yeah,
or-
I enrolled in the winter semester at the college. It was near where I grew up. It was
Yeah.
like a commuter school, and that's where
Mhm.
and then I was pretty locked in during college. No, I mean I wasn't never like studied crazy hard, but I was
You were in
there.
the
I was
routine.
present.
You
I
were
mean,
present. You were
doing
learning
it.
stuff. Did you retain anything you learned?
I mean a little bit. I mean I went to class always, and
Yeah.
I was always very surprised when people didn't go to class. I was like, why aren't you going to class? Somebody's paying. You're paying for this, or your
Yeah.
parents are paying for it, or you're getting a loan. Might as well go to class.
Yeah.
Even like when people are like, oh, they don't take attendance, and I'm like, Yeah, but man, what the fuck are you doing? Like, that was the thing I could never I was like,
They're there for the degree, basically.
yeah, but I was like, I'm gonna go to. I mean, some of the classes were dreadfully boring, you know,
Yeah.
obviously. But I was like, I'm gonna go. And also, part of the reason I always went. Well, that was like one thing my parents really beat in my head was like to always be there, like to
Be
have
present.
be present and not ever like call in sick or like I had
Don't
like.
phone it in.
Work ethic.
Yeah.
I never had. I had like perfect attendance in school multiple times. I didn't get.
Oh, wow.
I didn't get the full like. I remember when maybe I was like in 8th grade. I didn't mean I'd just go off on tangents, but I remember in 8th grade there was a guy who was like a senior and he was graduating. He had perfect attendance the whole time.
Wow.
And the very last day, this is so like 90s. They sent a limo to his house
No,
to
what?
take him to the school. the school did that, but I mean, yeah.
Did you want that? Was that what you were?
Well, I'd
was
already
that your
been
goal? Like,
sick and missed a
Aw,
day or two. But there was
man.
like plenty of years where I didn't. So that was like really beating my head was to.
So he did it all from 9th grade to 12th, or?
He went from kindergarten to 12th
Oh
grade.
my God, he never
Oh,
got
what?
sick, or he
Deserved
just
more than
he
a
just
limo.
brought the germs.
Yeah, I don't know. He just.
He's the one that gave everybody chicken pox. He just did
Maybe,
not
yeah.
go home.
That's incredible, though. Perfect attendance from kindergarten
Almost
to 12th grade.
That's insane.
suspect. I'm like, did he have a twin? Like,
I
what?
don't know.
How did that
That's
happen?
crazy.
But then, so once I went back to college, right around that time, Delta Airlines opened an office on the college campus as a way to get cheap college labor. And the college gave them free office space. And then they worked out an agreement with the college that it could only be 4-hour shifts.
Yeah.
And people could only be 20 hours a week. And so I got a job there and worked there the whole time I was in college. And I was able to fly for free and
That's
shit like that.
awesome.
Yeah, it was
That's
pretty
tight.
tight.
Did you start doing comedy while you were in college?
No, because then I grew
Those cheap flights would have come in handy with the comedy
for
career.
sure it would have. I mean,
Yeah.
I was just busy, just kind of flying around the world and not all around.
What did
the
you
world.
major in?
I studied theater initially, and then
Not stand-up comedy. You didn't major in stand-up comedy.
no, that's not a major.
Apparently it is. So we were just talking
Now
about
it is.
that on
Yeah.
the last
2019.
podcast. Yeah.
Boy, it shouldn't be. They should really teach people how to not do comedy, or just not, or quit.
Do
They
you
should
think
really
we're
be.
oversaturated?
Yeah, there's too many comedians.
Yeah.
But not us. We belong.
Yeah, there's.
Do you think
Room
there's a
for you guys.
problem when there's an oversaturation? Like, do you think there needs to be sort of a finite amount of voices?
I don't think there should be a finite amount of voices. That it's just that, you know, when I was started, 15 years ago, it's never been easy to make a living at this, but it was easier to make a living in terms of being a performer. I mean, now there's like all these other avenues like this, but if you're just like, like this, like a workhorse that wants to go out and like just perform in front of people,
Yeah.
it's tougher.
You can't make a living being a stand-up comedian
I mean,
today because there's so many comics. Just being like a road comic or something, it's very hard because you're now competing against like, actors and Instagram models. And
I mean, there's
like,
always
a lot,
been-
There
it's
still are though, but it's like it is much more
it
competitive.
is much more competitive and it's harder. Also, like because of the oversaturation, like there's like stand-up comedy in like every media outlet essentially. So people don't like necessarily come out to live shows.
Well, that might just be LA. I mean,
Maybe
people,
it's an LA thing.
Yeah,
or
but
maybe
people
it's
do
a-
come out to shows here. I mean, I think a lot of it is like.
People come out to your shows.
Yeah.
You guys get like a full house at your shows.
I mean, I think it might be a marketing issue
Yeah.
sometimes,
Yeah.
and you got to have a good product.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the thing with our show is it's a very cool venue.
Yeah, and you guys have Chappelle dropping.
Yeah, I mean that
randomly,
was like
too.
through like Live Nation, but they only heard about it because we started the show there, and
Yeah.
but we've had all sorts of amazing comedians over the years. I mean, people that we probably couldn't get it, like we probably can't get Tom Segura anymore. I mean, maybe if like Tom was like had to be in Culver City
Yeah.
for some sort of meeting.
Oh, so for our fans, we're talking
was
about
convenient.
a live comedy show Dave produces at the Blind Barber, which is a bar in Culver City.
Yeah, it's got
And
this.
Isn't there one also in like East LA?
Yeah, they opened one over there, and then we just had our first show over there.
Hey.
Tight.
And yeah, I mean, if
Well,
anybody,
It's
I mean,
called
it's
The Secret Show, right?
yeah,
It's a big hit, and I have friends that come into town. They're like, "Oh, we got to go check out the spot where they do the secret comedy." I'm like, "Oh, the Blind Barber. Yeah, we should. Let's go there."
Who do you?
So like people know about your show. Like it's an LA thing to do.
yeah, it's
When
been
people
written
come
in
to
like
town.
L.A. Magazine and some other stuff. Yeah,
who do you run it with?
I run it with Grant Lyon and this guy Nick Anthony. People don't really know him as much because he's a writer. He does stand up, and then Andy Peters, and then the East Side show. We brought on John O'Sley and Logan Gunzelman to help run that one. It's like
Tight.
almost like a franchise sort of thing because it
Yeah.
is so much work.
We feel that. I
What-
mean, yeah,
Yeah.
we're expanding as well. So I get.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
helpful to have
I don't know, here's what we
people.
did with, we wanted people that we were like friends with,
Yeah.
but we also know how comedians are, and people will be like, yeah, I want to run that show, and like, that maybe they didn't know how much work it was, so we just
They
asked.
wanted the title, but not. They didn't.
Yeah,
know,
like I'll come host it. And like, yeah, of course, why not? So we had everybody write out a proposal what they would do for the show,
And
it
that
was
probably
that's
brought down the
cool.
list till cut the list in half.
yeah. I mean, it
probably,
did
right?
cut the list.
Yeah.
Some people just didn't write it, or they're
Yeah.
like, hey, you know me, and it was just, but it was just a more of a test. It was kind of game theory in
Yeah.
terms of like, let's just see if they write this. Like,
Yeah.
even though like, who knows if any of their ideas
So-
are good? Let's just see if they wrote like a page worth of
Yeah,
stuff
Logan
about.
killed it.
Huh?
Logan killed it.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, she's like my opener on the road, and
Yeah.
but so
She's great.
she
Yeah.
is
She's
great.
so
So
funny.
I was
Yeah.
like really pulling for her, and we had like an interview thing. I mean, it's like it's very business-like.
It's very formal.
Yeah.
That's
someti-
great.
But you need those types of like business-minded people running shows. 'cause,
Yeah, I mean
like,
that's like Grant is really the very business savvy in terms of like the spreadsheet. Like, there's been a couple times where I had to do the spreadsheet when like people email in, and I gotta fill out the fucking guest list.
You don't even remember the password anymore.
And I'm like, oh man, like the clerical work is like, boy, I didn't get into comedy for like I
Yeah.
did office
There's a
work
lot
for.
of that.
That's
There's
like
a lot of that.
I like. I'm all about Google Drive. I'm all about making it my bitch because it's just
It's a
the only
great product.
way I can organize my thoughts and like not forget stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not.
I just have a hard
Not your
time.
jam. So when did you I guess what sparked you to do stand up? Like you're working for Delta, you're in school.
Yeah, well, I'd studied I was in the theater department
Yeah.
for like a year, and I was like, I made a mistake where like the theater department is very different from any other department. Where it's like the theater department. Now I see it. I realize it. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was like, I don't want to hang out there. But the theater department is essentially like a giant comedy club, and you have to hang out there all the time in that building, even after hours or like whatever. And I was like, I had the job, and I had a girlfriend, and I was like, and I didn't live on campus, and I was just like, did my class, wasn't that great? I'm out of here, but
Yeah.
everybody else is like working on shows or doing other weird work like. It's not, it was very like, how in comedy, you got to go to the comedy club and be like, I'm here, and look at me, God damn it, you know what I mean? You got to relentlessly
Remind
be,
people you exist.
yeah, and that's the way the theater department is. It's like integrated in that, and I kind of sensed it, but I was like, I ain't doing that, fuck that, and so it was like an important lesson to learn, and then I just switched my major a couple times, and I was getting a degree in geography, and I don't know, it was because it was the shortest one out the door. By that point, I was like, oh man, I don't want to be in college like 6 years, and I was like, I'll do this, I'll be out in 4.5, so I switched to geography.
What do you do in geography? What do you study?
Yeah.
What classes do you take? Do you have to do like cartography, like mapping? And
Well, I didn't. I wasn't really more. I was more interested in like human geography and like
oh,
why people live in certain
So there was a
places.
sociological aspect. To
Yeah,
it.
it's like a real
anthropology.
yeah
kind of.
anthropology,
There's
history.
like the migration of humans and stuff.
Yeah,
that's all
like
part of
the-
that.
There was one class that we just studied like the Interstate 80 that runs across
I-80.
I-80. Like
Yeah.
that was like the main focus of the class, and like how that that interstate going in there changes.
Did it help you on the road? Taking that class?
Yeah, does that help you? Like, do
Because
you,
you've been on
do
the
you
road a
know
while.
where you are when you're on the
Well,
road?
Like, we're gonna have to take the I-80.
Or you know the importance of like highways and stuff and how they like, I don't know,
I mean,
transform
Orient
different
yourself
cities.
within any city.
I mean, I think we could figure out like once you're in a city, if it's on a grid pattern, like sometimes the streets mean they go this way and the boulevards go this way and shit like that. You know, like, some people would never figure that out. But I'd still like when I lived in New York City, I'd get off the train and be lost all the time. So it's not like I had
So then, what did you end up majoring in at the end of it?
geography.
Geography,
Yeah.
okay.
And then I got out of college, and it was like another like lost period because it was right after like 9/11, so the economy was real fucked up, and there wasn't any jobs. And then I was like, I didn't have a job, and then every day I'd just see the plane crashing there, so I got crazy depressed. Even though I was just like, I was like, and also on top of that, it's like, I got to figure out my life, and now we're under attack.
You were in New York.
No, I
right?
wasn't even in New York,
Oh.
but I just, I don't know if you remember, it was just like they would just play it on like
yeah.
some
It
loop
was
that
nonstop.
fucking insane. And
There's
like,
that's-
I didn't have a job at that time, so I was just like
Yeah.
really like,
That was the
steel
beginning.
beams, the steel beams.
That was the beginning of like fear mongering in the media, right? Like at least for our generation. Like I don't think media has ever been the same since.
Yeah.
Well, that was I think our generation's campaign, our propaganda.
Remember
Yeah.
for like a year they were just talking about shark attacks? There was like 1 year where they were like, you're going to
I
get killed
remember
by a
that.
shark. And we were all like, what? Why did they pick this hill to die on?
Well, it's because that girl got her arm ate off by
Yeah.
a
The
shark.
surfer girl? Yeah,
Yeah.
but then they just went wild with it for like a full year.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how they can sort of make that a story, an interesting story, and
then-
vilify these sharks.
And then everyone picks up on it, and
Yeah.
it's like, we're in the sharks' homes.
yeah, we're in their shit. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it goes to like our primal
don't have a
fear,
warrant.
like there's like that part of our animal brain
There's
is like,
always
be afraid of
something-
a shark. And
Yeah.
then the news is like, hey, did you forget about sharks? And you're like, oh, I did. And they're like, be afraid of it. And you're like, yeah, your animal brain's like, yes.
Yo,
Yeah.
fear sells.
I just feel like if there isn't anything
Sells
going
papers.
on, like they'll like sensationalize a story to like continue with the fear mongering. Like I think like maybe I want to say this was like 5 summers ago. It was the summer of child abduction because there wasn't enough in the news. Where we're like every child in America is getting abducted. Like it was just
They're just
constantly
swapping them out.
Yeah,
Everybody's
yeah.
abducting a child, and then
Yeah.
they just trade
I mean,
them.
which probably, I mean, it was making people seem like, is this like an epidemic? Like, is this really, is it that many children? And then,
or is it being just focused on?
but it was, no,
more
it
than-
was just what the media was focusing on
Yeah.
because there was nothing else going on.
The sharks are stealing our children.
Right, exactly.
Or they'll like, they always focus on some murder trial. I mean, there's like
Yeah,
murders
yeah.
happen all the time,
Dude,
but
yeah.
The
but-
murder docs are crazy right now.
Which
but-
one?
Dude,
Like,
Ted
it
Bundy
went-
is
it went-
not that hot, okay?
It went from like murder docs now straight into pedophilia, and I'm like, this is why kids ruin things for women all the time. They're taking the focus away from us. Like we used to be the stars of the murder docs, and now it's the R. Kelly and the
Yeah.
Michael Jackson one.
Like
You
the
mean the
special
stars and-
victims.
We're getting replaced by younger girls.
Yes.
you mean the stars as being the,
The victims, yeah.
But also
Where
like,
they call them
100% victims.
special victims.
Yeah.
but then when like a
so
hot
special.
chick murders somebody, that's like, boy, the news loves that. When
Oh
there's-
yeah, like
yeah.
Casey Anthony and
then
like
that one lady, she
the
did.
Italian lady.
You know, actually, right before 9/11, what was that congressman who there was a Chandra Levy? Was she missing?
Oh shit, yeah.
Chandra Levy.
Yeah.
So she was missing, and that was all over the news.
Modesto, right? Modesto, California. They had like Chandra and like another missing woman later
Gary
on.
Condit, I think, was the name of the congressman. And as soon as 9/11 happened, no one talked about it anymore.
But I think they found out that he didn't have anything to do with that. It was like,
Oh, well.
yeah. Yeah. But he was like having an affair with her, and it was just the unfortunate thing that she got murdered, and then
Yeah.
And then the other murder happened in Modesto too, with the guy who did murder his wife, the pregnant
Oh.
one.
yeah, that guy, what was it, Drew Peterson?
Scott Peterson.
Scott Peterson,
Yeah.
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 The news loves this. It's what is it with humanity that we're
Oh,
like
it-
pulled to?
But it's
Fear,
also based
adrenaline,
on
paying
ratings,
attention.
right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
also based on ratings. So like people love that stuff too. And you could tell because all these like murder
But
like documentaries are doing so well. Like people are binging on this Ted Bundy documentary.
I think
That
people
was,
are
like,
just-
what, 30 years ago.
When people are like, people watch them, they just want to be aware, like, this is what I got to look out for so I don't get murdered. You know what I mean?
And it's also like it's mysteries. Like mysteries have always been interesting to us, and mysteries and justice.
Yeah.
And even that's why I think it lasts for so long. We're still
Well,
like
it's drama. It's high stakes.
there've been like people missing and murdered, but we're all still wondering about John Bonet. You know,
Yeah.
we're curious. We're like, we need to find justice. There's just like also this mob mentality that you see like now on Twitter and stuff. People get canceled or whatever, and it's like we have to bring this person to justice.
The one thing I watch when I watch those documentaries and they show the courtroom people and the lawyers are so like ain't got no personality. I'm like,
Oh, they're dry.
boy, if I would go in there and crush it. You know, I don't know. I would
Your
know.
Honor.
I wouldn't know any of the legal terms, but like in terms of like speaking to the jury, I would
Fucking
be
murder.
I'd
Then you be tried for it.
Yeah, I'd be crushing it.
I want my like serious professionals to be serious. I don't want a funny doctor. I don't want a funny.
I don't even mean be funny. I just mean have like
Have
charisma,
some
stage
person.
Yeah.
persona.
Yeah,
Yeah, or
most
stage
of them are
presence.
like so dry.
You have that it factor.
Yeah,
Like
like
that lawyer's got it going on.
I'm sure if you have a lawyer, it's got like that it fact, like
Yeah.
a politician sort of thing. He can convince a jury. All you got to do is convince one or two people to be like,
So some Jesse Jackson type of charisma.
Yeah,
type
I
of-
mean, we've seen those
Stuff.
lawyers. They were in the O.J. Simpson
Yeah,
trial, you
yeah.
know?
he got like some TV
yeah.
like amazing lawyers.
That's the name of the lawyer, right? Jesse Jackson? Or
No.
that's the.
No.
Whoops.
Yeah, that's the
You're talking about Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Yeah, no. Who's the. what's
Johnny
the-
Cochran.
Johnny
Johnny
Cochran.
Cochran.
Whoa, I just facial recognition comedy.
Oh my God.
Black man.
Yeah.
Is that what?
I've done that before.
So what does the phrase
Johnny
facial
Cochran.
So-
recognition mean?
Well, it's because we always got confused for each other. So then
You're all very different.
Well,
We appreciate
okay,
that.
here's the
Thank
thing. Facebook also tags the wrong person.
I think-
their facial recognition software doesn't work for our ethnicity at times.
I think also part of it might be that we all get tagged on the same flyer
Yeah,
a lot.
so-
So
Yeah.
that might also throw off. their
No,
stuff.
but it also like it would tag me as like, you know, Monrock. Like it's basically whoever has the closest features that, you know, could be this
Oh, yeah.
person, you know? And that, I mean, that happens so much in comedy too, like where, you know, I was like Fizza booked something and I was being congratulated for it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and it just, I think one day we just got frustrated.
Yeah, I mean, you
Yeah.
could have her do something and pretend like she was you. She could probably get away with it
I mean,
if it was a bunch of white people.
I mean, like there's a big height disparity, so it is
How,
funny when
how-
people.
Yeah.
I guess you don't see it online though.
Yeah, I guess.
You're
So,
taller.
like,
we're both taller than her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's taller than me. I'm 5'1". Like it's just everybody.
Oh,
So
wow.
when I do get confused for any of these roles, I'm like, you're a blind motherfucker. Like just stop
Yeah.
it.
I don't know. People do that. It's not a race thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I read that there's a study where if you're not exposed to
Yeah.
a group of people, then you're not the quality that's going to register with you is the skin color.
Yeah.
You're not going to need
Yeah.
to zone in and be like, okay, this is what their eyes look like, this is what their nose looks like. You're not going to scan them as deeply.
so-
Well, like
exposure.
when people are like eyewitness of
Yeah.
something, it's not very reliable. you
Yeah.
know. And also after shows, this has happened for years. People are like, "You look like my cousin," and then they pull up a picture of this
Yeah.
guy, and I'm like, "Hey, he's
Yeah.
got glasses and a beard. It looks nothing like me." And
Yeah.
I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I can see it," you know. And
Yeah,
people
well-
always, and sometimes it happens to me where I get tagged in the wrong, so I don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's never personal. I think it just became frustrating because it happened so frequently that it's just like, well, I hope everyone's fucking killing because otherwise, if someone
Yeah.
bombs, then they're gonna think that. You know what I'm saying? Like it was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
that common. It was
Yeah.
just that.
And I
common.
think what you said about it being exposure is true, and that's where like the race things come in. Like our people don't confuse us as much as like white people confuse us because
Right.
they're not as exposed to us. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like I'm not going around and confusing, you know, like two blondes in the comedy industry. You know, like it's
we might be more sensitive to it.
I think we're more sensitive to it, but it's
well,
also
we've all
like
grown up around a lot of white people.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So-
we've learned how to identify features.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, this is Sarah, and this is
This
Laura.
is the good
Sarah
white.
without an
That's not
H.
true.
And this is Becky.
No.
And this
Well, I think we just wanted to showcase how different we are, like in our comedy and all of that, and so
Because I
It's-
think
yeah.
you get assigned a bunch of qualities just by being like, everyone knows they're one brown person, right? So they assume, oh, well, that's the same person. And it's crazy just how much that was projected onto us. So
Right.
someone wouldn't know us and they'd be like, oh, well, you probably are like this, this, and this. And it's like, well, no, not necessarily.
Yeah,
I think that happens with like our parents a lot. Like people are like, you're more like your mother, you're more like your father, and then you like just grow up believing that you have the good and bad qualities of one parent or whatever. It's crazy how much people want to like label you, compare you to something they already know.
Yeah,
in order to.
I think it's just to help understand and navigate the world.
Yeah.
So it's not personal, it's just annoying.
Yeah.
I mean, well, especially with like India is such a huge country, and it's
And
like
she's
all
not
the-
even from India. She's Pakistani.
All right. See,
Yeah.
but ethnically, everybody is similar. No,
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
common ancestors. I mean,
Yeah.
we all
Yeah.
do, but like ours are a little more closely related,
Sure.
probably
Yeah.
but yeah, like
than ours. Than
but
Dave and I.
everybody puts on the
I was just saying, our ancestors, the three of us, our ancestors are probably more closely related than your ancestors with mine. But we
Yeah.
are related.
right.
We're
I
all
mean,
related.
Cousin.
At some point.
Didn't see you at the reunion.
yeah, at some point, people from Europe came and conquered India and Pakistan way before the British ever came back. So that's why people from India and Pakistan look a little bit more like Aryan.
Caucasian features.
Yeah.
But
Especially northern India.
Yeah,
except
northern
the,
India.
the
And
southern
Pakistan,
part
yeah.
of India,
Yeah.
they're much darker because
That's my
that's where
dad's side. Yeah.
That's where they got stopped, or they just didn't advance as much.
Dravidian.
Yeah, so there's different ethnic groups in
Indigenous.
India.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is people aren't aware of that. They just think we're all just sort of one homogenous.
And so many
like,
different languages and
yeah.
all that, and different customs and all that. So
Have you been?
Yeah.
No, I just had a class about India in
Yeah.
college that I kind of
That was
remember.
part of your human geography.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like
Pretty
he'd
cool.
be a hit in India, like as a
You
stand-up.
would. Oh my goodness.
I feel like
you
they'd love
would.
you. I don't know what it is, but
They would love you.
You
'cause
said you traveled a lot, right?
I never went to any place that, like India or that.
Where'd you go?
I went to like Europe. I just went to see my people.
went to Europe.
But, if
So
you ever-
did you travel? So while you were in this job in college, and you said you were traveling around a lot, did you take your girlfriend and travel around the country?
yeah,
with
my
her and stuff?
girlfriend worked there. She got a job there,
Okay.
and then once she got a job there, we were able to travel together. That was nice.
So was that fun?
Right.
Did it kind of feel like Bonnie and Clyde? You guys like traveling?
Yeah, I mean, there was
country
like one
together and stuff?
weekend we just flew to London last minute.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because they had at the time they had a direct flight from Cincinnati to London, and we because we worked in the reservation so we could see how many seats. That's it. You're flying standby,
Yeah.
and like we flew over to London for like 48 hours.
That's
Just had like a
amazing.
48-hour
That's
weekend
fun.
in London. Yeah,
nice.
and we did a lot because you got so many travel days. You could switch your shifts. Like they were pretty flexible about switching your shifts at the place. So you didn't get like vacation days, but you're switching shifts. So, but you would get like, I think when I first started, you got like 14 flight days. That means that's 14 days you could fly for free. And then after a couple years, it moved up to 21. So we did a lot of day trips because at the time, Cincinnati was a hub for Delta. So you would get we could be like, oh, let's go to Chicago. We could park in the employee lot, so we didn't have to pay for that.
Nice.
And we leave at the earliest flight to Chicago is like
6 a.m., 5 a.m.
or maybe like 7.
Yeah.
Because there's the time difference between Cincinnati and Chicago. You land at 7 a.m. and then you could take the train into town, and you just had like a big Ferris Bueller's Day
You
off
have
in
the whole
Chicago,
day.
and then fly home at 8 o'clock. And we did that with a
And
lot.
that's like one flight day.
One flight day.
That's
So
great.
that was, any city that had like good public transportation, we did that. We went to like Washington. We went to Washington, D.C. one time because
Yeah.
they had, at the Smithsonian, they had this huge Van Gogh exhibit.
Oh, cool.
And so we flew there and we saw like the Van Gogh stuff and hung out for the day and then flew home and New Orleans we went for a day. So there was a
That's
lot of
pretty
that
cool.
stuff, yeah.
And you got lucky because Cincinnati is in that center part of the country in
Yeah.
that area, and there's a lot. It's very easy to go to any of the East
Well,
Coast cities.
You said
Yeah.
it was a hub, right?
It was a
Yeah.
hub at the time, so there'd be
Yeah.
so many 10 flights a day,
Yeah.
so leave super early, you come back the last flight of the day.
And you get a full
and,
day out of it. It's an exhausting day, but it's fun.
Well, yeah,
right?
it's especially when you're a young kid,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
you're 21, you're we're having some drinks, you're out there.
That's a sweet deal.
Yeah, it was a
Very
lot of
jealous.
fun, you know.
Yeah.
So you guys had just great dates.
Yeah, that's how do you beat that? Like after
Yeah.
that, how does your girl like go to the next guy? And she's like, I got a day trip or I got 2 day trip to London last minute. How does that happen?
I don't know. We broke up, so I don't know. I'm sure it was so crazy. We broke up. It was very contentious at the end. We'd been together for a long. We probably stayed together for like a couple years too long, you know. So by the end, it was.
Was it a mutual breakup? at
Yeah,
the end?
yeah. Well, I broke up and got back together several times.
Yeah.
And it was just.
I mean, it's college, right? So that's
Yeah, it was like
expected
we
behavior.
broke up right at the end of college, which on my part, looking back, it was kind of dumb because since when I got out of college, there was the whole reservoir of like dating. Now I'm just out there in like the regular people world where I was like, well, especially when I worked at Delta, it was like 150 women and like 10 dudes, and so I was just like. So many girls like were hitting on me, and I like just had a girlfriend that worked there. Like whatever, we had a great time, but but
You
you know,
didn't take
there was,
advantage of it.
I didn't take
Could
advantage.
have had brought these hosts to different area codes.
Yeah. And so, well, you know, we broke up, and then we didn't see each other for years. And one night, I was like in Cincinnati. I was at like this, like open mic, or it's kind of like a show. Every show in the Midwest has people at them, and not like here, you know, even at the open mic level. And I saw her there, and I was like, oh God, because I had carved out that I had this new life as being a comedian, not the whatever her boyfriend. And then I was like, hey, what's up? And this is like, you know, before social media, like you broke up with somebody and you never saw them again.
Yeah.
It was pretty tight.
So you had started comedy. You were in the open mic scene.
Well, yeah, I might have been a little bit. I might have been working at Go Bananas at this point. Like I was moved past whatever an open mic, and she was there, and I was like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And she's like, "I'm dating that guy over there," and I was like, "Oh, that guy?" And like he was a guy that just started comedy, and I was like, "What are the odds of that?" I mean, I was much funnier than him, so that was like a very.
I have an ex that I knew since college, and then we like dated, and then we broke up. But he had started improv before I started stand up, and that's like what got me into like encouraged me to do stand up. And his girlfriend now is an improviser and stand up, and so like there is like crossover, but for me it's so weird because he's a pre-comedy person to me.
Yeah.
He's like a college person. So like I've had other people that I've interacted with in the comedy community in like a romantic way, and it's like less weird to me.
Right.
Because I'm just like, this is my thing. Like this is my life. But it's like, I don't know, you can't really predict what people are gonna do.
I know. Can I tell? Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
I always feel like
I'm saying she probably has a certain type, right? There's some sort of like on a comedic level.
maybe
What she saw in you, she probably also saw in that guy.
Yeah,
What your ex saw in you, probably what, you know. Like, it's interesting when people end up dating like multiple comedians. It's like they're after something. You know?
Nobody just fucks one comic. It's like a Pringle or something. Once you pop, you can't stop.
Exactly.
So you're all the way at the bottom.
Can I tell you my biggest fear when I first started comedy?
Please.
My biggest fear was that I would start it, and then like everybody I grew up with, like or at least some of them were like, "Oh, Dave's doing it. I'm gonna do it." Like I thought I had this fear that they were like, she ain't funny. Fuck that. I'm funny.
Yeah.
Like they would just
Someone would steal your shine.
Yeah, like they would just come and do it. Like and I was
Or take your thing.
Yeah, like it was such a weird but I was like such like a I grew up in like a small town of like 4,000 people, and like if somebody got in one band, everybody's like, I'm gonna do that band. Like everybody was very much like they're like, I'm the biggest fan, or like I'm gonna do that, you know. So there was like this part of me that I was like, I'm gonna start doing this, and then somebody else is gonna show up, and then they're
that was your biggest fear?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's like stems from like not being able to grow past your small town, right? So it's like the fear of getting stuck. Right?
Well, I also was like now moving into a different world, and like I was afraid, like I was becoming like not a new, but I was becoming a new personality or different person, like and making a lot of new friends that had similar interests and not people I grew up with.
You didn't want old Dave to come into the picture?
Well, yeah, people called me Davey, and I had a
Aw, Davey.
Yeah, when you say it sounds so sweet.
That is sweet. Like I definitely know people who have like completely changed once they start comedy. Like they take on like their middle name as their stage name or whatever, and their old life and their comedy life are completely separate. So I can understand how like, you know, you have this distinction between like when you started your comedy life,
Right.
and it's like that crossover becomes really hard.
It's a rebirth.
So I get that.
Yeah.
Feels like a phoenix rising from the ashes. You're
Yeah.
like, this is my new life. This is how I process things. This is how I analyze, and I make people laugh.
Were you ever afraid of like judgment from like your small town or like people that you know that like may have come to your shows in the beginning and stuff like that? Did you have haters and doubters and stuff?
I
when you
don't
were
know if I
starting
had
out?
haters. I
No.
mean, especially like at Go Bananas where I started was like you had to bring people for the open mic.
Yeah.
So I really would like go to the bars in my hometown, or anytime I would be like, "Hey man, you gotta come see me." So I was like really like almost more reconnecting with people. Like,
Yeah.
"Hey, I haven't seen you. You should come see." I just started comedy. You know, like I was able to get a lot of those people out at the
Yeah.
very beginning. Now it's like impossible to get them to come. You know, every once in a while. You know, but I was really burning through like people. It wasn't really like. I mean, I wanted to do well. Like when I had at work, because at this point I worked at Fidelity Investments, and when I invited like people, I told people working when
That
they
geography degree got you a job at Fidelity.
In finance?
well,
were you managing people's 401ks and
no,
stuff?
I had a job in customer service in 401ks,
Okay, cool.
Gotcha.
and then I got transferred into like the mail room.
You had to know where people were coming from. That's the geography part. Of
Yes,
it.
there you go. You should tell that to my parents. They're very supportive of my comedy. They
That's
just
great.
came and saw me. I was like on tour with my buddy Shane, and we didn't get all the way to Cincinnati, but they came down to Nashville, which is like 4 hours away, and they
Oh,
made like a
that's
weekend
sweet.
of
That's
it.
really sweet.
And they took me and Shane out to dinner,
That's so cool.
and then they went the next night in Lexington, Kentucky, on their way home,
Yeah.
and they came to that show. So
Is it
That's
the first
awesome.
time they've been to your show?
they've seen me a bunch now. Initially, I let them come very early on, and then I just banned them. I was because they would come on, and I
Yeah.
was like, I really wanted to talk about like fucking and drugs and sort
Yeah.
of that sort of nonsense, and I didn't want my parents. I didn't want to be self-conscious with my parents there,
Yeah.
so I really banned them for a long time, probably 5 years.
Yeah.
And then, because I just didn't want my dad to ask. In my mind, he's like, "What's that about? What's that mean?" You know. like,
Well, if
what-
you're feeling self-conscious,
Yeah.
it could take you out of your performance,
My
and
pa-
that's a whole other factor.
My parents are banned for that reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. My parents are banned. My boyfriend's banned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your
they-
boyfriend's seen you before.
Yeah, but then like once I realized, or I think we both realized, like I do so much better when he's not there. So
Is it the pressure, you think?
he's just like very like he wants me to do well, so it's like a lot of like tough love and like very like very very critical, you know. Like I'll be on a show, I'll be on a lineup at the Laugh Factory where I'm the least seasoned comic there, you know. So it's like I do well, but I don't do as well as like, you know, Orlando Leyba or
Right.
like, you know, some of these like
Yeah.
comics that have been
Right.
doing it much better than me. And he's like, "Well, you weren't the funniest," and I'm like.
Is it
What?
your boyfriend said that?
Yeah, he's like, and he'll say things like, "Well, you know, we like, you weren't as funny as some of the guys. You were funnier than some of the other guys." I'm like, wait, you can't compare me.
So it's the comparison.
it's that
thing
comparison thing, but it's also like,
Yeah.
wait, you want me to skip like 9 grades in comedy to, you know, like to be like as funny as some of these.
Right.
He's like,
My-
well, the audience doesn't know that, and I'm like, you know what? You can't come to shows anymore.
Yeah.
You can't come to shows
Banned for
anymore
life.
until, you know, like until I'm absolutely crushing it as better, like as well as the headliners, the nationally touring on TV headliners on these shows. Just don't come, you know.
I know
Or
I-
like he can come to like low stakes bar shows or whatever.
I
but-
lifted the ban on my parents once I did like that show live at Gotham on Comedy Central.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was on a long time ago. But when I got that, and then I was like, well, I'm going to be on TV. It seems kind of absurd. Like,
Yeah.
it also
Yeah.
was like a feather in like my cap that I did. This is a real thing. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
That's a
And-
great milestone, by the way. Congrats.
that was a long time ago. There's been other
But
stuff.
yeah,
you know,
there's been.
but it was like
yeah.
it was like the first very and I got it from like being in Cincinnati. The fact that I was like, oh, that's when I decided I had
that
to
you were
move.
going to New York,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, you gotta
That's a
go.
big deal.
I was like, the odds of getting on TV again in the Midwest are very low, you know. So
So then after that, did you end up moving to New York after
Yeah,
you filmed
yeah.
the thing for Gotham? or Comedy Central?
I was like, I've been on TV. It's gonna be so cool. Like people to care. And then you get there, you're like, oh fuck, I gotta start over. It's like this. I don't know if I gives a shit. I mean, it did help in the sense that like if I sent a clip and I could get booked on show. Like
Yeah,
I was
it's a
able
good
to.
tape.
It was like I didn't have to do like the full mic.
Yeah.
I didn't have to like mic it up. Like I mean, I
Yeah.
did mics in New York, but it wasn't like.
You didn't start from scratch. Having that
Yeah,
credit gave
and
you a
like
bit of,
I'd
maybe a
been
leg
on the
up.
road for years, so I met a bunch of comics. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, by that time you have referrals and stuff from
Yeah.
people
But
who
I
can vouch for you for the
yeah.
clubs. Yeah.
I still understand, like, it's still a bigger pool.
Oh yeah.
so it's,
like,
like,
there
you
was
have-
a ton of people that were on the set that season that had lived in New York, or like
Yeah.
were like that was just like a thing. They're like, yeah, I did that, and then I got this thing coming up. Like it wasn't like to me, it was like. I can't believe this ever happened. They're just like, yeah, it's a thing. Like it's just like, you're like, oh, all right, And like I definitely like they all knew where to go hang out afterwards, and like and I was like, I just felt like so lost in the big city, like just some rube or something.
How long did it take for you to like it?
What, New York?
Yeah.
I mean,
Or to feel
when I
at-
left,
at
I
ease.
loved it.
I say that about LA. Like I love living here and I love leaving. Like traveling a lot.
I
is
lived
so
in
fun.
New York for like 2 years, and I was like, by the end of it, I was like, I gotta get out of here.
And then you moved out here to LA.
Yeah, I just feel like New York is for a certain type of person that maybe I'm not. Like, I could just see how like hard it could make people. It's, even
Yeah.
when I go back and like, I went back a couple years ago and like some car like cut off this old lady and she's like, "Fuck you!" And I was just like, yeah, damn, it's like somebody's grandma, just
Yeah.
like that. Ah,
Experiencing
Anger.
that much anger just like in the middle of her day.
Just
Yeah,
wrapped
yeah.
up
That's
in
like
it.
normal behavior. That's just like daily
No,
life in New
New
York.
York. People are fucking angry.
Yeah.
There's a lot more
Aggression.
aggression in
I
New
think
York.
we're more,
Angst.
I don't know, being from there, we're more like expressive about it. Like the way we feel is like, you'll see the way we feel. Whereas like there's some other cities where like people aren't as expressive,
Yeah,
you
I mean,
know?
I'm
and
from
it
the
comes
Midwest. We just don't talk about
off,
shit.
we don't
and you
talk
die.
about it. It comes off as like passive aggressive or passive or, so I mean, it's like, take it or leave it, it's like whatever you're used to. Like being in LA, I had to like learn that like whatever people are saying it's just face value.
Yeah.
You have to like read further into like what they really may be saying or thinking or feeling.
That was frustrating for me initially because it was just
Yeah.
it's easier just keep it real. It's much easier, and that's not really LA culture.
Yeah, they don't want to keep it real. What if you're like a big star tomorrow? You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah, that is kind of weird how people treat people differently like that. It's like I don't know. They like I always whenever I meet like a celebrity or something, I'm like they probably want me to just be chill. Like the number of people they see that are like freaked out by them or like by meeting them,
Right.
It's probably not real interactions for them.
Sounds kind of lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be lonely having all that money.
Just so sad Scrooge McDucking my way through it.
Yeah.
So how's LA life been for you and comedy in LA? It seems like you're doing really well. The show is
am.
a success. The show is a success.
Oh man, this is news to me.
The show is a success. No, but like you've been on Fallon, you tour, like it seems like you're killing it. You're killing it, Dave.
Well,
Davey.
yeah.
I'll stop if it's
all
annoying.
right. I mean, I feel like it's going all right. I mean, obviously, I'd love to have, more money, or financial security. But if I wanted that, I probably wouldn't be a comedian. So, they don't really seem to be congruent. Those two things.
And that's not an uncommon problem here in LA.
Yeah, well, being an artist in general,
Yeah.
So, but in terms of everything else, I feel like I made a lot of friends, and I do a fair amount of shows, and I think it's going pretty well. I enjoy the weather.
Yeah.
You had an album, right?
Oh yeah,
Dead
I've
Waite?
had a couple albums over the years.
How many albums have you had?
I have like 3.
Oh, wow.
The first one you can hear me just bombing on it. That one's called Kaboom. It took so long.
Is it really called Kaboom?
It's called Kaboom, and
That's great.
So did you bomb on purpose?
I did not bomb on purpose. I mean, it was like over a whole weekend too. It shows that the host was like a local guy. And it was in Wisconsin. He did a bunch of Wisconsin references, and he was just crushing. And he was doing like a Fargo voice, that sort of accent, and like just referencing the mall and everybody, and it just people love. He was like a headliner, like a Wisconsin headliner or something, and he was hosting. And I just I couldn't get out of the hole. It was taking me like 5 or 6 minutes before I really would be like, because I was recording an album from the feature spot. And it took me like 5 or 6 minutes to get the audience on adjust to like my cadence and style, and I wasn't trying to be their best friend like that guy was.
Yeah.
Like that guy's just like her uncle, and I'm up there like click clack, and just being like me.
It wasn't the best order for the lineup.
Yeah, so there's
So you took lessons learned from that album.
Yeah, and I was like with Stand-Up Records at the time, and the guy's notoriously slow. I mean, he's a great guy. He's a good supporter of comedy, but it takes him forever. So by the time it got actually around, there was a part of me that was like, I probably shouldn't put this out, but there was a part of me that was like, just put it out. And so you can hear it. You can hear it. There's parts where I'm like, fuck. Just like I'm frustrated with the audience.
That's amazing. That's fantastic. Honest albums. That should be a thing.
Kaboom.
And then you had Dead Waite.
Yeah, that was the most recent one. Yeah, I think the middle one, Hot Doggin', is the best one.
Yeah, Hot Doggin'.
Hot Doggin'.
Where'd you record that one?
That was in Madison, Wisconsin, at Comedy Club on
You
State.
love Wisconsin.
Yeah,
that's
good
your
crowds.
crowd?
There are good crowds there.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like that you're giving all this love to the Midwest.
Yeah, well, that's where you got to know how to entertain the Midwest if you want to make a lot of money in comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they say if you can kill in Kansas, they'll put you on TV.
I thought you were going to say put you in hell.
That too, literally.
Kansas is very hellish.
Oh god.
We should probably wrap up, right? We have a couple. Well, you kind of asked one of the questions, but we have a couple questions at the end that we ask every guest. One of them is, this is a safe space.
All right.
Do you have any
I already have my silverware question.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But do you have any more questions that people may think are dumb, but you're just curious about our culture?
Oh, I'm always very curious about. This is probably a more Indian related question. I apologize.
That's fine.
But I remember when I had my Indian professor the class was about India, essentially the history of India.
Yeah.
And I would try to is it the caste system? Is that still a thing? And
Not legally.
but do people still know? Do you still know?
Yeah.
And does it still carry over when people move to America, or does it get left behind?
I mean, in America, it probably gets left behind, but there, it's.
I think our parents are still more aware of it than our generation is, even in America. But yeah, there in the cities, it's not as much.
Well, and also it's a socioeconomic
Yes.
issue. So it's just if someone has been repressed for generations for being this caste, it's like, well, you can sort of tell because this is the family that scrubs toilets or something.
Yeah.
That's what it would be.
But it also matters sometimes in arranged marriages, and those are more popular, not in the cities as much anymore. Now the arranged marriages it works in a different way in the more liberal parts of India. But also some people their names are associated with their caste.
Yeah.
Iyer is a Brahmin last name in Tamil Nadu, in the south of India, and so some people carry it with them because it's cross ethnicities within India, and the cultures across those different groups are, retain it in a different way.
If the caste system benefits you, then I can see how people would use that. But I think if you immigrate to the U.S., why would you carry that with you?
It's you're a freshman and you're I'm not a nerd anymore. I was a nerd in high school. This year I'm a hippie.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think people mostly use it in terms of culture and marriage, maybe.
Yeah, I wasn't raised Hindu, so that you were.
You weren't? What were you raised?
Muslim.
Oh,
Yeah.
Muslim, yeah.
I'm my family is atheist, but we know all the Hindus. We're Hindu. Or,
All right.
Yeah, culturally. Yeah.
That's a good question.
That's a great question.
Yeah, I know some stuff.
And then our second question is, who's your favorite South Asian
I
celebrity?
thought you were to ask me to pick one of you guys. Which one's your favorite? Of you?
Yeah, which one of us is your favorite?
Who do you feel the strongest connection with?
That'd be completely defeating the purpose. But your South Asian celebrity, not one of us.
South Asian celebrity.
Like Mindy
Yeah.
Kaling, Aziz Ansari, Hassan Minaj, Hassan
Dr.
Minhaj,
Sanjay Gupta,
Like Indian, Pakistani.
Cal Penn, Kumail
uh,
Nanjiani,
Padma
Yeah.
Lakshmi.
Harry Kondabalu.
I'd probably pick
MIA.
Cal Penn. I guess he was. Yeah, I like
Cal
him.
Penn?
Cal Penn, because of White Castle, or 'cause
Yeah,
of-
that and yeah, he was like maybe like the first like Indian person that like registered in my mind.
Yeah.
He's producing that pilot that Kieran's on, right?
Yeah,
That's so cool.
yeah.
And then he
He's
worked
working.
like for Obama. Like he
Yeah.
just seems
Yeah, he's
like
a cool
very
dude.
so
He
cool guy.
seems like a very like well-rounded dude.
Yeah.
I
Like,
think-
Go ahead.
Oh, I think it's like I've tweeted about this. I'm very inspired by the fact that a year before he worked for Obama, he jizzed in his own face in one of the White Castle movies.
Yeah.
I'm like constantly like, see, your past doesn't have to define your future.
I love that.
I guess I
That's
you know
inspiring.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't realize like Freddie Mercury
The
had
come-in-the-face
that
part's
background.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I mean,
Zoroastrian and yeah.
yeah, I guess he was born in India and everything.
Yeah, he's Parsi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he tried to hide it for a long time. So now that it's out, yeah, he's one of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the Parsi group. That's a distinct ethnic group in India because there was like the Jewish people. There was a lot of keep staying within the culture.
Yeah,
They're
Zoroastrians,
Yeah.
yeah. They're like the oldest religion and stuff, right? Maybe.
Is
know.
Hinduism older?
No,
I don't
think
know. It's
I
up for
think-
debate on
I
that.
think
Yeah.
Zoroastrian started like in like the cradle of civilization. and
Yeah.
then
I'd
they
have to
got-
check with the cloud. I'd have to Google
I think
it.
I took a religion and geography class. I think I did.
It's
I
one
can't
of the
remember.
world's oldest religion.
There
Oh,
we go.
see, yeah,
You
we're
did
learning
it.
some facts.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So Dave,
Yes.
where can we find you online?
Oh.
Yeah, where can we find you? Where can we find your albums?
Oh wait, Hinduism is the world's oldest religion according to many scholars,
Oh look, I retained something.
dating back more than 4,000 years. That's from the History Channel. Okay, wow.
Up for debate.
Twist.
Still
Wait,
up
M.
for
Night
debate.
Shyamalan that, which is another South Asian celebrity.
We're asking where we can find you. Online.
Oh, I had one more question.
Oh, yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah,
Go ahead.
Is
let's
that
keep
all
going.
right?
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah.
My bad. You all right, buddy?
He's fine. He's fine.
Yeah, please.
You know, now that I know you're like a Muslim background, like they always just show men praying at the thing, but I didn't know if there was any place for like ladies to,
Women
like,
pray, yes.
or to
There's-
like even learn about the religion. Like it's just always,
No.
I get, you know, it's
They're separated in mosques generally.
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
so-
never
Yeah.
show that ever.
And then
Yeah.
generally also the women are behind the men.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, I don't practice organized religion,
Yeah.
but
You
that's
practice disorganized religion.
very much so. Yeah, I just
Take a little
I just
dash.
Frankenstein my ethics together and call it a day. It's like, can I sleep tonight? All right.
That is very interesting, though, that because it's never portrayed in any media that women are also part of the religion.
We're
and
in
they
the
also
mosque in a
pray.
different room.
Yeah, no, they're
Behind the
they're
curtain.
in the mosque. they
Well, yeah,
pray, they're-
usually like
yeah.
anytime it's like in a movie, it's like they're going to the mosque because they're hiding the terrorists there. So that's
Man,
that's it.
That's
Yeah.
like that's what it is. Like 40% of white Americans don't have any non-white friends or something, like some crazy number.
But I don't know if you live in like
that's your-
Montana, like
That's
Yeah.
true.
That's
like,
your
you're not-
perception of it is the TV and movies. though,
yeah,
so
like if you live in like one of these places where it's just all white people,
Yeah.
it's like
how are you gonna?
And it's
I
like
can
also
understand
like
that.
The
it's
importance
not
of
a
representation
Yeah.
and not
I
being
can
the same
understand
person.
that, but that's where the fear
being perceived as the same
mongering
person.
needs to, we need to like fix that problem, right?
Right.
Because like if a majority of Middle America is like, only one type of person.
Yo, we need to do a brown version of A Simple Life. We need to
Yeah.
Nicole Richie, Paris Hilton, just go work on these farms with these people.
Yeah.
Introduce them to our culture. Be
Get rid of
amazing.
all the
I think
forks.
honestly, I think we just got to bring everybody chai and samosas, and they'll be like, "Oh, we're sold." I think that's all we need to do.
Well, I want some chai and samosas. Have
I
you
could
had
go for-
samosas and chai?
What's that?
Do you like Indian food?
It's
I'm,
like a
you
fried
know,
pastry.
I'm kind of like a real,
a fried savory pastry.
I'm
so
like a real virgin when it comes to Indian food.
You're
I've
a
been-
Oh
meat and
shit, we
potatoes
gotta
guy?
get dinner, Dave.
Yeah.
We'll take you to dinner.
All right. I mean,
Yeah.
I've had some Indian food over the years, but yeah, I'm like pretty, like I'm really fumbling around in the dark with it.
We'll get you into it.
So, Dave.
Yeah.
Where can we find you?
That's my line.
You girls. You can find me on the internet, DaveWaiteComedy.com, and then it's Dave Waite Comedy on Twitter,
Yeah.
Dave Waite Comedy on the Instagram, and Waite is spelled Waite. So yeah, but if you just type Dave Waite Comedy into Google, it'll bring all those. Even if you spell it the wrong way, it'll bring it up. So just
Just type comedy after it.
yeah, and my name, Dave Waite. Just don't type comedy in there.
Let me just type comedy, then Dave pops up. 'Cause he's just,
Boy, I wish if somehow rigged the algorithm to have me come up first, that would really change my life.
and
I would love anybody to follow me on Insta. I'm really pushing the gram.
Oh,
I was
yeah?
just on a podcast recently. I was like, I love anybody follow, and I got 0 follows.
Guys,
So-
follow Dave Waite on
so if I
Instagram.
just get like 3 or 4 people.
I just followed you on
I'm gonna
I know-
follow
Instagram.
well, yeah,
I'm gonna
because we're
follow
like,
you
you
right
know,
now.
we're
Follow
becoming
right now.
friends.
You got more
There you go.
followers than me, buddy. You're killing it.
If you can get every podcast host in LA to follow you, I think you'd have like
3 million followers.
Exactly.
More people
Dave Waite.
than in Rhode Island. How many people are in Rhode Island? I don't know. I just
So
You should have
racist.
just
That
You
is
said
a
it.
don't know how many-
statistic. It's a statistic that I'm not basing on any facts, just a hunch.
You got so
So-
many selfies, dude.
Oh, they're all videos.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I
I do a
love
lot. I
this.
do a lot of video. I do like an advice thing called Dear Dave,
Oh, I
Wh-
love this.
where like people will send me an advice question, and then sometimes I'll go to art museums. That one's called Dave on Art. I'll go to art museums and make fun of art and shit
That's
Oh,
like.
great.
that's what I saw recently. I
Yeah.
was dying. It was so
This is
funny.
great.
Yeah, so I'm not taking.
I might
I'm
just
not
like
just
send
talking to
you.
the
I
camera.
might just send you like Instagram videos of me just asking you for advice.
If you could write it down, that'd be easier
Or
for me.
write it down.
So
Because when people have sent me video once where they're talking, and I'm like, I gotta transcribe this. I just write it down.
Pallavi,
Yeah.
where can we find the facial recognition stuff online?
You can find us at facialrecognitioncomedy.com. We are also Facial Recognition Comedy on Facebook and Instagram, and on Twitter, we're Facial Rec Comedy. You can also subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/facial recognition comedy. We have merch, bitches.
T-shirts,
Merch.
tank tops.
We got
Ooh, tank
t-shirts, we got
tops.
tank
Show them
tops,
arms
stickers,
off.
we got some cool ass stickers.
You gotta start selling some pajamas. You gotta be on
I
brand, girl.
know,
You gotta
I
brand it
know.
up.
We've been talking about that. We also have our show the second Sunday of every month at Westside Comedy Theater at 9 p.m. And we're coming back to New York on May 31st at 11:30 at New York Comedy Club, the Gramercy location.
11:30 p.m.
11:30 p.m. We are not morning people. And then we have our Irvine Improv show on July 23rd. It's a Tuesday at 8 p.m.
Come through, slide through.
So many things.
And it's all on our website, so facialrecognitioncomedy.com. There's a calendar if you can't remember these numbers.
You
and dates.
sounded like Melissa Villasenor there for a
I
second.
did? Did I just channeled? Was I just possessed by Melissa?
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, weird.
You're
Oh,
doing an
weird.
impression of you're doing an impression of her.
Oh, look at that. Oh, yeah, so our stuff.
Yes. I'm Pallavi Gunalan, PALLAVIGUNALAN. That's my website, my Instagram, my Twitter,
He did
my
it this
Facebook.
time.
I had to train them. I had to train them not to
He
laugh
did it
while
this
I was
time.
just spelling my
It
name.
went
Our
on for
guest
so
did
long.
It's just
It's
pick
my
a stage
name.
It's a
Yeah.
lot
No,
of
I'm
lot
not
of
going
stuff's
to.
happening.
That's exactly what
There's
they
a lot
told
of letters
Hassan
and
Minaj
words.
to do, and he didn't. And it's because my name matters.
It does.
Yeah, that's all my stuff.
It's just a lot of syllables.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'm fine with that, and people
Sure.
can get used
Cool.
to that.
So
All
where
right.
can we find your 4-syllable name?
You can find me as really Zara. Zara is spelled Zahra on all the social medias and websites and things. Thanks.
Tight. And I'm Fizz Dasani. Fizz Dasani everywhere on all the platforms and stuff. FIZAADOSANI.com.
Yay!
Hey, you want to close us out?
Hey, this has been facial recognition comedy with me.
Thank you.